Hey guys, hope all is well. All right, I'm going to open this teaching with Luke chapter 11, and we're going to start at verse 37. But before we continue, I want to make this very clear. The Bible nor I are saying that washing is bad, but you need to keep this in context. When you say, okay, children, wash up before dinner, that's you making a hygiene request. And you're not suggesting in that request that somehow if they don't, their germs and their saliva and their breath might somehow get onto you and somehow get you sick and kill you. The current mask mandate does say that. It says you need to put a muzzle and or mask on your face and wash your hands before you come in because your germs, your saliva, your breath might cause people to fall ill and even die. And that's the difference. They're mandating you to do something based on you being defiled and contaminated and causing death to other people. That is not the same as saying, let's wash up before we go to bed or something of that nature. That is a hygiene request. So I've covered it. You'll have to understand that. And I'm assuming as a Jesus Christ believing, God-fearing Christian, we understand that. So what's the context here in Luke 11? Well, the context here has nothing to do with a hygiene request. They're not saying, "Oh, hi Jesus, hey, would you like some water here? We have a sink over here. Would you and some soap?" They're not saying that. They're saying, "Hey, we can't believe this guy hasn't washed before dinner. That must mean he's defiled and filthy, and he's not a good person. He's an evil person. He can't be of God, because if he was of God, he'd wash." That's what many self-professed Christians are saying. You're saying that I'm not a Christian because I won't wear the mask. See the difference? You're forcing me through your purity law to try to make me wear a mask with the assumption that I'm defiled and that somehow can contaminate people and therefore I'm evil. That's what's going on here. And that is what the problem is with acquiescing to these purity laws. When you put a purity law out there and call people evil for not wearing a mask, and remember, you don't have to say it out loud. You can just think it in your heart. And you've already sinned against your fellow man and fellow sister. Okay? That's what's going on here. That has to be the understanding. So let's continue, or let's get going, in Luke chapter 11, verse 37. "And as he, Jesus, spake, a certain Pharisee besought him to dine with him. And he, Jesus, went in and sat down to meat. And when the Pharisee saw it, he marveled that Jesus had not first washed before dinner." Now, this is the same kind of situation that was in Matthew 15. And I do recommend that you go watch my Muzzle Me Not video that covered this. It's the same type of situation, but not the same scene. We know this because in verse 2, "Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands." The disciples are not washing their hands when they eat bread. It was the same type of accusation, but different scene. So here it is again. That's how important this is. Why? Because when you start falling for these purity laws, you begin to obey the rudiments of man and cause God's laws to be of none effect. That's what it said in Matthew 15. Okay? That's what it says. Why does it say that? Because that's what happens. Look in verse 6 in Matthew 15. "Thus have you made the commandment of God of none effect by your what? By your traditions, by your oral laws, by your purity laws." That's what's going on here. And that's what's happening right now. And that's why Jesus doesn't just keep the peace. Because he could have. It's very simple. Jesus could have just said, "Okay, yeah, I'll get some water, I'll get some soap, I'll just wash up here." Just to keep the peace. Preach him the gospel, be nice. Give him the niceties. That's not what he does. And why doesn't he do that? Because he knows that the reason why they're saying this in their hearts or out loud is because they're claiming you're evil for not washing before dinner. That's the problem. And because you're not washing before dinner, it must mean you're an evil person. That's the issue. And that's why Jesus responds this way. And I need you to also know and understand this. And I will assume, if you're a God-fearing, Jesus Christ-believing Christian, that you know fully that Jesus never sinned. He walked in the perfect will of God, absolutely sinless. And if that's true, then what you're about to see from verse 39 all the way down to 54 is the perfect will of God. Okay? And if that's the example that's being set, then this is the perfect will of God. So if you're telling me to do the opposite of what Jesus did by saying, hey, you need to wear that mask if you want to be a good Christian, well, that's funny because that's the opposite of what Jesus did. So why do you keep telling me to do the opposite of what Jesus did if you believe in Jesus Christ for your salvation? Why are you telling me to not walk as Jesus walked? This is the perfect will of God. Why are you telling me to walk opposite of that? You need to check your heart. Verse 39, this is what the Lord said unto them. Now do ye Pharisees make clean the outside of the cup and the platter, but your inward part is full of ravening and wickedness. You fools. Not even 2 full verses in, and he's called them ravening, wicked, and fools. Let's continue. Did not he that made that which is without make that which is within also? But rather give alms of such things as ye have, and behold, all things are clean unto you. But woe unto you, Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue and all manner of herbs, and pass over judgment and the love of God. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Let's pause here for a moment, just so you know. Passover means disregard. That's what it means. So he's literally saying you are disregarding the justice of God, and you are disregarding the love of God. How? By these purity laws. Absolutely. Because you're making people feel ashamed, dirty, and defiled, and you're telling them lies to get them to acquiesce to you, and now they're doing your purity laws, and when they don't, you make them feel defiled and you make them feel ashamed, right? You're putting burdens on them, and then in return, what are they doing? They're following your laws, and they're not going to visit their mom and dad in the old age home because they're listening to you because you told them they shouldn't do it. You know, they're not calling the elders of the church to pray for them when they're not feeling well because they don't want to call you because you might get sick or you might get them sick. But yet the Bible tells you to do the opposite. So I'm going to continue, but that's what goes on when you start following the rudiments of men. That's what happens. And that's why he's saying this. Woe unto you, Pharisees, for you love the uppermost seats in the synagogues and greetings in the markets. Why is he saying this? What's that got to do with washing before dinner? Why is he bringing up, clearly this is about their arrogance, right? And all they care about is their reputation, right? That's what it is. Arrogance, pride, and we care about our reputation. We want to look good, and here's a big show for everybody. What's that got to do with washing before dinner? Might it be because they want to walk around saying, look at how clean and obedient and perfect we are, and you're not, if you're not doing exactly what we're doing, and we get to say you're evil for not wearing that mask. We get to say you're evil for not washing before dinner, and we're allowed to say that now that we have a mandate that says that. See, you wouldn't have called me evil in February of this year for not wearing a mask. You wouldn't have insisted on even March 15th of this year, or I would suggest even April or May or June of this year, that I have to wash my hands and put on a mask for sure if I want to be a good person. But you're saying that now. Why? Because of the law. You weren't saying that prior to July. You're saying that now. Why? Not because I asked you to. No, they put the law in. You're obeying the law in obedience to their rudiments. And now you're accusing me of being evil and disobedient. And I'm going to continue here, and we're going to have a little chat about that too. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are as graves which appear not, and the men that walk over them are not aware of them. He just called them invisible graves and hypocrites. He's saying they're arrogant and prideful, and all they care about is themselves. He's saying that they disregard the justice and the love of God. He's saying they're fools and they're ravening and they're wicked. If I were to respond this way, you would immediately say, he is not a true Christian. Meanwhile, your Bible is telling you that this is exactly how Jesus responded in the perfect will of God. So if I say, I'm exempt, thank you, That's a very light response if they're telling me to wash before I walk in the store and put on a mask. It's a very light response. It's very polite. Very polite. And yet you would say, if I were to respond like this, that I was terrible and evil. In fact, there's a lot of people, Christians included, these self-professed ones, that are suggesting we're not Christians because we're not obeying these rudiments. Yet their own Bible tells them, not only in Matthew 15, but in Luke 11, that you're not supposed to. We don't always obey the rudiments of man. Okay? Otherwise, Paul wouldn't have been in the prison so often if he was always obeying the laws of man. Okay? There are times where you don't obey the laws of man. Let's continue. Then answered one of the lawyers, there they are, those mandate lawmakers, and said unto him, Master, thus saying thou reproachest us also. Oh, they're feeling insulted. Is this where Jesus apologizes? No, it's not. And he said, Woe unto you also, you lawyers, for you laid men with burdens grievous to be borne, and you yourselves touched not the burdens with one of your fingers. He's saying, you guys are laying out these laws. They're burdenous, they're grievous, and you don't even do them yourselves. And I don't have to tell you many examples, but you've seen the ones that say, don't touch your face, and then touch their own faces immediately after they say it, telling you not to get anywhere near other, stay 6 feet apart, and then they're touching each other's shoulders and backs, and they do it right in front of you. Okay? Bottom line is, what is Jesus also saying here? There's not only clearly there's hypocrisy. You should be able to see that. But not only that, you're putting burdens on people that are grievous and unnecessary. Okay? And that creates what? Creates lots of bad things, including, by the way, unnatural affection. This means unloving. This means heartless. It doesn't mean what a lot of people think it means. It means heartless and unloving. And that's what they're doing. When you're like walking up to your friend and you don't know whether to high five them anymore or shake their hand, or, you have to like ask 3 times, is it okay for me to come in 6 feet with you, or should I put on a mask? That creates an unnatural affection. That's not normal. You weren't doing that in February. They caused you to change your mind. This is not God's way. It's not the way he laid it out. You're following the rudiments of men. That's why you're doing and falling for these weird things. And that's why the world is looking stranger every single day. It's because you're following the rudiments of man rather than the laws of God. That's what's going on here. Woe unto you, for you build the sepulchres of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. Truly, you bear witness that you allow the deeds of your fathers, for they indeed killed them. And you build their sepulchres, you build their graves. Therefore also said the wisdom of God, I will send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they shall slay and persecute. Wow. And so again, guys, don't persecute someone, not even in your heart, that is not wearing the mask. Don't persecute them. And for anybody saying that I'm persecuting you, no, I'm not. I'm telling you, look, you make your choice. I don't hate you, and I'm not angry with you. I'm saying that our Lord and Savior didn't acquiesce to the purity law. I'm giving you the scriptures, I'm giving you the reasoning, and I'm saying this is the example that Jesus set. And if you begin to follow the rudiments of man, you will begin to disobey the laws of God, and you may not even notice it. Okay? You can't claim to love me by wearing a mask. I didn't ask you to wear a mask. I'm not asking you to wear a mask. So please don't use the love thy neighbor, because if you use that one, well, then you could say, well, they've insisted that we all wear pink tutus on Mondays at Costco. So if you love me, you'll wear a pink tutu. Well, you can't do that. That's not, no. It's, I will do for you what I would have you do for me. And I don't want you to wear a mask. So that's why I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not making that request. Who made that request? The lawyers. That's who made the mandate, the lawyers. Not me, not anybody who's not wearing the mask. Okay? So you're not doing it for me. You're not doing it because I asked you to. You're doing it because the lawyers told you to, because the mandate people told you to. And so that's a false love. And I know that's a hard-hitting message, but you can't love me by doing what the lawyer says. That's not an expression of love towards me. How is that an expression of love towards me when you did what the mandate people said? That's not a love towards me. You're obeying them, because if it was up to me, I would say, please don't wear the mask. If you came into my house, I'd say, please don't wear the mask. Okay? But if you insisted on it, okay. But I don't hate you for it. Let's face it, the minority is the ones who are not following the mandate. They're the ones that are getting persecuted. They're the victims. Who's the victim? The victim is the one who's in minority when everybody's pointing at them and giving them a stink eye because they're not wearing a mask in middle of July, but they weren't giving them the stink eye in the middle of June. Why is that? Because of the mandate. The mandate changed people's perception. That's why. It's clear. The perception of people have changed because the mandate, the law itself, the purity law, causes the change of perception. I would have walked into a store in June, you wouldn't have given me the stink eye. I walk in there now without a mask, you give me the stink eye. What changed? The mandate changed. Because the mandate changed, now your mind has changed. Now you what? You look at me potentially as an evil person. So this is your danger zone right here. If you are genuinely wearing the mask and not judging anybody in any shape, way, or form, okay, right? That's your heart. You got to check it, not me. But I'll tell you right now, if you're saying in your heart that person's evil, then you're doing exactly what the Pharisees were doing. You're evil because you're not washing before dinner. I'm letting you know. That's what's being communicated here. Let's continue in verse 50. That the blood of all the prophets, which was shed from the foundation of the world, may be required of this generation, from the blood of Abel unto the blood of Zechariah, which perished between the altar and the temple. Verily I say unto you, it shall be required of this generation. That's a huge charge. You should study that. Verse 52. Woe unto you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. What? For a purity law? Absolutely. Because once people start following the laws of man, the mandates, you do not end up in the spot of knowledge. So be careful. If you're following them, be careful. Why? Because of what it says next. You entered not in yourselves, and them that were entering in, this sounds like they were headed in the right direction. You hindered them. Yeah, they can potentially take you off the track. So what's hinder mean in the Greek? It means what it sounds like. To hinder, to prevent, to forbid, to keep out. That's what it means. So these are people who were heading in the right direction, but then were kept out. By who? By the ones who took away the key of knowledge. Because again, if they don't have the key of knowledge and you follow the ones without the knowledge, guess what you don't have? You don't have the knowledge either. That's what is being said. Just like in Matthew, when he said, the blind lead the blind, let them alone. Why? Because if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. It's the same theme, right? 2 Timothy, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth, right? Taking away the key of knowledge. And 2 Timothy was written by Paul. There's the same theme continuing here. So don't fall for the rudiments of men. That's the message. I don't hate you. I'm just letting you know that's what the scriptures are saying, okay? You'll have to make your own decision on it, but I have to communicate what I see in the scriptures. And I'm going to repeat this one more time. If you disagree with me, it's fine. But if you don't give me the reason on why Jesus then didn't just acquiesce to this and just give them the niceties, till then you disagreeing really doesn't do anything. It's just, well, I disagree. All right, well, that's fine. But it doesn't change what the scriptures say. It doesn't change the fact that Jesus walked in the perfect will of God, and this is what he said, and this is what he did. Let's go to verse 53. And as he said these things unto them, the scribes and the Pharisees began to urge him vehemently and to provoke him to speak of many things, laying wait for him and seeking to catch something out of his mouth that they might accuse him. And here I'm focusing on this, guys, because I need to say something here. Anybody who is accusing me of lying or twisting scriptures, you know what? Look what Jesus said here. I'm going to go over it one more time. He called them ravening, wicked, fools. He said they are disregarding the justice and the love of God, that they're arrogant and all they care about is their reputation. He called them hypocrites. He called them invisible graves. He said they were going to potentially slay people and they were going to persecute people unrightfully. And he also said that they took away the knowledge and they're preventing people from entering in. They got nothing on him. They're still looking to accuse him of something. He said all of that. I don't mind telling you, there's Christians today that are making accusations of me, and I didn't say any of these things. All I'm saying when I get to the door is, I'm exempt, thank you. And I'm suggesting everybody else does the same thing. That's all I'm doing. They had nothing on him. And look what Jesus said. And I've got self-professed Christians accusing me of being evil and cruel because I interpreted Matthew 15 the way I did. So that's an outrageous accusation. So again, be careful. You're the one that's persecuting. I am announcing I don't have any hatred towards anybody that is wearing a mask. I'm telling you, I believe you are going in the wrong direction and you're following the rudiments of man, and it could potentially lead you astray to the point where bad things can happen. And read 52 for yourselves, and read in Matthew 15, verse 14 for yourselves. And then you determine it for yourself, because I can only tell you, I'm not holding anything back from you. I'm telling you exactly what I'm seeing here in the scriptures. And it continues in Luke 12. And guys, it talks about the leaven of the Pharisees, the hypocrisy. I got another video coming in about that, so we'll just continue. But here in verse 2, it says, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever you have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light." So if you're speaking against people behind their back, that's on you. "And that which you have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops." If you're saying anything, accusing your brother of being evil for simply exercising their right to not wear a muzzle on their face, I'm telling you, if you're saying that in your heart or behind their back at home or whatever, I'm telling you, that is on you. Period. "And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body." Why is he saying this? "And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do." Why is he saying this section? What's this got to do with washing your hands? Might I suggest that what he's saying is, he's saying to his friends, hey, my friends, don't be afraid of men, right? Don't be men pleasers, because if you do, they will what? They'll lead you astray. That's what they'll do. And that's what's wrong with being a men pleaser. That's what's wrong with fearing man more than God. Okay? So right now, I believe, this is my interpretation. You can come up with your own, but you're going to have to explain to me why he's saying this. What's this got to do with, not washing your hands? I'm suggesting what he's saying to them is don't acquiesce to those purity laws out of fear. Now you might say, oh, I'm not afraid. Well, okay. Well, are you afraid of getting your reputation tarnished? Are you afraid of people disliking you? Are you afraid of people talking behind your back? Are you afraid of, people avoiding you and whatever? Are you afraid of getting the flu? Are you afraid of that? I can't answer that question, but he's telling him, don't fear man. So if you have to check your own heart, if you are acquiescing to the purity law because you fear man based on, losing your reputation or not getting as good of a job or whatever it is, then that's something you need to check into. Okay? Because he then follows this up with, "But I will forewarn you whom you shall fear." This is who you should fear right here. See? "Fear him, which after he hath killed hath power to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him." That's who we need to fear. Fear God. And that's the beginning of wisdom. Beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. And when you fear man, you're not receiving wisdom. You're not. You have to fear God to receive the wisdom. And so if you're doing this because you fear man, and I can't answer that question, if you fear man in any way, if that's what's getting you to acquiesce to these purity laws, I'm telling you, you're the one that could be in danger. It's as simple as that. And for all of you who see this nefarious law for what it is and agree with this message, I know you're walking into locations and going, so there's got to be some times you're seeing like 295 people that are wearing the mask and, you're one of the one or two or few people that aren't, and might come to you to say, maybe I'm wrong on this, and that's understandable. But a word of encouragement, stay strong, because look what it says in Luke 13. "Then said one unto him, Lord, are there few that be saved? And he said unto them, Strive to enter in at the strait gate, for many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able." What does he say here? Entering in not in yourselves, and them that were entering in you hindered. So don't let the purity laws hinder you. Okay? That's what I'm seeing here. So, and again, in correlation to what I'm talking about, when you see the majority of people acquiescing to this, be encouraged, because he says, few there will be that will find it. That's what he says, right? We know that. It's also in Matthew, is it 7:14? Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. So when you're the minority on this, that's validation that you're on the right track, okay? That you're on the right track. And if you're getting some persecution, guess what? What did Jesus say? He said, they persecuted me and they will persecute you also. So tolerate the persecution. It's worth it. You're doing it because you're following the example that Jesus did. You're not fearing man, and you're courageously, by the Spirit, I'm sure, moving forward in obedience, right? To who though? To the great God Almighty, not to these ridiculous mandates that they have put out there to convince people that somehow your breath and your, hands and your saliva, okay, which we've been hugging and kissing one another, grandma and grandpa, for how many centuries upon centuries upon centuries. And now all of a sudden in 2020, July of 2020, your saliva is a deadly venom from a potential snake person that you might be. That's ridiculous. Plain and simple. So I hope this has been edifying for you. And I really, really just want to say thank you for listening.